Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Rosa and Rubini podcast, Making Sense of This World. My name is Manas Chavla, and as always, I'm really pleased to be joined by CEO and Head of Research, Brunello Rosa. This week, we're talking about Donald Trump, unsurprisingly, but whether or not he'll tank the US economy and the financial markets. Um, Brunello, there's been this idea for a long time that the stock market is the only check or one of the only checks on Trump's presidency, and that he really looks at it as a gauge for whether or not his administration is doing well. And a lot of that sort of orthodoxy was cast into questioning in the last couple of weeks when, as a result of a number of things, Doge and some of these sort of immigration acts, but primarily the tariffs, the stock market started sort of really sliding down. So, could you give us a bit of an update of what's gone in the last couple of weeks and the context behind some of this?
Absolutely. So, as you know, we have started to discuss about potential policies of the Trump administration way before he got installed, and actually even way before he was even elected, because we could see that coming very clearly. Some of these proposals have, in fact, been enacted, including the abolition of the Department of Education, which is something extraordinary to think about. We can say that the Project 2025, which we discussed a lot during the summer, is in full swing. So almost anything that was written there is happening, in particular the mass firing of public sector employees that will be substituted most likely by loyalists, not to the constitution, but to the president. And this is, of course, causing also a lot of backlash from inside the administration. Ministers themselves are not happy. They're not happy that the mastermind of all this is Elon Musk, and is not even sitting at the table. Is not being confirmed by the Senate. Is unelected. So this is causing clearly lots of problems within the cabinet. And then, of course, the reaction of people affected by this, whether they're federal employees, the army is starting being extremely upset. People at the State Department are saying you really cannot slash our workforce much because we won't be able to operate. So, all this is giving this sense of chaos that is further fed by the decision of the government. For example, the decision of deporting a few Venezuelan criminals uh, uh, outside the US is also extraordinary, not because of the act itself, it would be even understandable, but because the judge said that shouldn't be done. For whatever reason, the judge could consider that to be the case, that could be violation of some human rights or, whatever it was. Now the government decided to totally ignore what the judge ruled. But this is at the foundation of what the US democracy is about. Since Tocqueville onward, the US democracy is based on the separation of powers. And if parliament is not able to stop the president, if the judiciary is not able to stop the president, who said that the constitutional judges, so on the Supreme Court, should be impeached if they rule against the president. I mean, this is beyond chaos. Markets don't like chaos. Markets don't like uncertainty. And markets are tanking. It's already a correction, 10% from recent peak. Could go into bear market, which means 20% from recent peak. Clearly, the tech stock are collapsing, in particular because Tesla is part of them. And one way of stopping Elon Musk from doing what he's doing is punishing Tesla. Um, and this is happening. Not to mention that all the tech oligarchs that were there at the inauguration day to please the incoming president clearly now see that having chosen so much support for somebody that's exhibiting such a level of instability is not helpful even for them, and the market is punishing them. Markets tend to anticipate what happens then in the real economy. And you don't need to wait the 3 months for the end of the trimester um, of the quarter. You don't need to wait the additional month or two before official statistics are out. We now have forecasting methodologies that can tell us more or less in real time what GDP will do. Now, the Atlanta Fed, unless they want to fire everybody in Atlanta Fed as well, because they are publishing numbers, yes, Atlanta Fed has a nowcasting model that people look at very closely and is very accurate. That is signaling a contraction in GDP for Q1. So not even a month and a half in his second term, and the economy is already contracting.
Yeah. Um, I mean, Trump, you know, it would hear all of this and say, look, I said already that the economy would suffer as a result of his policies. And he said a lot of that, you know, during the State of the Union address. You know, my question is, how sustainable is this position, and how will it impact Trump's approval ratings? Because they don't seem to be doing too well recently anyway.
Yes, because first of all, Trump came as the champion of the economy, right? The art of the deal means growth, the new era, the golden era of the US economy. In notes against Biden, thing in which he was really doing better was the economy, the management of the economy, which, by the way, if you look at the numbers, under Biden has been amazing, has been 4 years of continued growth, not a single quarter of zero growth or even contraction is growth, stock market increasing. Yes, inflation was high, but we know why. War in Ukraine, pandemic, totally outside Biden's control. And then, still during Biden presidency, inflation was brought back to target. Yet, this was not perceived by the general public that thought, oh my goodness, we are living in a mess, prices are so high, and so on and so forth. Guess what? He was fired, and Trump was reinstalled at the White House. But and then he reinforced this message by saying, you know, I'm gonna deregulate heavily. I'm gonna give a big push to the crypto industry, so yet another, fuel on flames, and even establish a crypto reserve, Bitcoin plus other altcoins.
Hmm.
And guess what? Those are down, markets are down, S&P and all others. The economy is in contraction, and this is because, as I was saying, of the chaos that is being created, plus the mess in international relations. It has clearly rekindled a relationship with the dictators around the world. He said I got on very well with Putin, with Kim Jong-un, with Xi Jinping. Yes, what about the Europeans, your allies? What about the Canadians, your allies? What about the Mexicans with whom you have signed deals repeatedly, including during your first terms? How are you getting on with them? Not very well. Hence, the public is also starting to understand what the damage could be, and the approval ratings are planking on all dimensions, including the economy. Those reporting these facts are, according to Trump, reporting negatively against him. And this should be, he said, illegal. Now, can we really carry on like this for 4 years? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It seems like the sort of transactional approach to deal making is very much here to stay. And this idea that we had that the markets might be a buffer or sort of a dampener on some of his other plans, also might be at least can't go unquestioned, and might be proven a wrong assumption with everything we're seeing. But we'll see what the market is doing in 2 or 3 weeks. As much as it's in correction territory, there's still a lot more it can afford to lose. So as always, Brunello, thank you so much for your time and insight.
Thank you. Until next time.